Welcome back to another episode of the Paul Larry Podcast. Today, I want to discuss the lonely road of a recovering people pleaser. And I think this is an important episode. And if you yourself or you know someone that has been a people pleaser their whole life or have struggled with people pleasing in any shape or form, I think this will be a good episode to send them to kind of unpack some thoughts, experiences, and even things I have learned along the way in my therapy journey. Now, there are different forms of people pleasing. There are different reasons why it happened. People pleasing usually is a defense mechanism or a survival tool, you should say, that is usually formed in early childhood. For me, particularly, people pleasing was a survival tactic in the family dynamic in which I grew up. So I formed people pleasing tendencies to avoid conflict. I avoid people pleasing tendencies as a young child to gain the affection or sort of work my worth. Let me say that again. I formed people pleasing tendencies to sort of work my worth, meaning if I could make the people around me happy, they will see my worth, it will keep the peace. If I don't do, so being a good kid, not trying my best not to get in trouble. But then what happened with people please is if you grow up in a household where maybe a parent is dominant or um, we like to throw the word narcissism out, but I don't even think the parent has to be a full blown narcissist. I think just out of fear, out of survival. Maybe you grew up with siblings that were dominant and you had to kind of become that people pleaser. For me, it was more a chameleon, being a middle child that I can kind of get along with any and everybody. I could sit in any room. I learned how to adapt and become something different for the people around me. So as I grew up in adulthood, people pleasing can affect relationships, marriages, parenting if it goes undressed and unhealed. Um, a lot of adults are growing up, and there's a lot of information out on social media now. So people are becoming more aware of people pleasing. Um, and I'm so glad that I went through therapy because I've seen a lot of people try to break the habit of people pleasing and sort of went extreme, which is normal, right? This extreme, um, you become angry at yourself as well as angry as the people that you've realized that have sort of used your people pleasing tendencies for their gain and benefit. And have set strong boundaries, and I've seen relationships ended. Um, I believe because I've went to therapy, I've had to find that balance of okay, setting boundaries without being, let's say, like too harsh. And when I say too harsh, so in therapy, I've found that balance, or I'm finding that balance in therapy of setting my boundaries without being irrational, right? Like, especially when it comes to you have to deal with children, or you may have to deal with parents, or you may have to deal with coworkers. So some boundaries aren't easily set, like I could just cut you off. Because cutting someone off is not really healing, because just because you can't control your emotions, just because you're not properly emotionally regulated, there may be a season of cutting off while you go through the healing process, but you still need to build up that fortitude. You still need to be able to be around those people and have the boundaries. Cutting off is just hiding and protecting. And that may be good in a season where you're healing, right? But that is not a long-term um uh, 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 that is not a long term fix because you can't hide from the world. So you're gonna need, in my experience, good therapy, a good therapist. You're gonna need to see someone that could probably help you identify the root and help you overcome um, those tendencies. And now, why you call it like the lonely road of people pleasing? Well, here's some of the things that I've experienced in my journey that I'd like to share with you guys. If you lived all your life being someone that has been that people pleaser, right? Um, you care and you feel so much for the people around you. And what made me an extreme people pleaser is because I have such a huge empathy. They call it empath. I don't know too much about it. I just know I relate to it when I every time I hear about it, and it's something that I'm currently researching. Right. So on top of that, my um, empathy, the to hear somebody that is going through something, I feel it when people talk to me about their situations. I almost feel the hurt that they feel. Like it's so hard. So my natural reaction is I'm easily caught up. I'm easily swooped up in where I'll give of my time, resources, which is nothing wrong with. But as a father, some of those things belonged to my household. So there was no balance, right? So I was giving too much of what I should have given to people, and whether it was work or family or friends or situations or relationships. And coming out of that, what I've realized is once I started not only discovering myself, part of my therapy journey was really honing in and discovering who I am as a person. Um, but also walking in that. And in walking in that, you realize that some of the relationships you had, it's like as you're now owning who you are, some of those people are seeing you for who you are and they don't like it. Because um, before where you hold back your opinion, because you sort of know that your opinion might not align with someone else's, so you hold back, right? For the sake of just being liked or for the sake of just being accepted, right? So now, as you're living in your truth and speaking your mind and speaking your opinion and setting boundaries, you realize some of the relationships you've had were just built on the fact that you were a people pleaser. Were just built on the fact that you would not challenge thoughts and opinions and have conversations. Because now people will say, well, oh, I'm now seeing him for who he really is. And that's a good thing, right? Because now you are establishing correct relationships, real relationships. You are putting yourself in alignment better with people who align with you for who you are, right? As opposed to just being the person that's always there for everyone else um, and being agreeable. And why I say it's lonely is because when you really think about it, you start to see a distance in relationships with some of the people that you thought in your head felt the same way you felt about them. And then you start to realize that that relationship was based upon the amount of effort that you put in pleasing, accommodating, and being agreeable. And for me personally, it doesn't really bother me because, truth be told, I almost feel like it's freeing. And you may say, well, you're losing relationships. You're recognizing that, you know, um, people didn't really check for you personally the same way or the same level you check for them. And you probably think to yourself, well, that should bother you. And I could be 100% honest with you. The realization made me upset. The realization of it brought hurt, discomfort. But sitting in it and realizing it, how could you be hurt for something that really never exists? It makes you more aware and more okay with it. And it's no fault to the people that that have separated themselves with you. And I'll tell you why. In my therapy journey, the greatest lesson that I am learning above everything I just said is accountability. Here's the harsh truth that a lot of us recovering people pleasers have to understand. Have to. And if you share this with someone, make sure they listen up until they get to this point because I think this is the key. Accountability. You have to take accountability that it doesn't matter where the people pleasing started. It doesn't matter if it started in childhood wherever, however you got to be who you were in that tendencies, the accountability part is not being upset at the people that used you or the relationships you had because you were a people pleaser. It's being able to understand that those relationships were a result of your behavior. Those people used me, right? Now check this out. I got a notification. I just wanted to make sure it's still recording. People use me because I allowed them to use me, right? I've talked to people that's going through what I'm going through, right? And I noticed the same song, right? And it's always like an outward look, like they did and they used me, and now I was hurt because of I realized how much and they were taking from me. But in therapy, I realized like a lot of people are opportunists. And yes, it's hurtful to be like, oh, my mom or my dad or my brother or a coworker or a friend was using me this whole time. Yes, it's hurtful, but if you never take accountability that you were the core reason, that you were the root, that you allowed it to happen, right? You will never truly get healed. And you have to be okay with that. And that may be hard for some people to hear. And even if I take clips and I put this on social media, I could even see the comments now. That's another thing, y'all. Like some of the clips on social media, like I would put out to kind of promote the podcast. And one thing I noticed is a lot of people, they would see the clip, but they will never even go on the podcast to see what the show is about. Even if I put it in the caption, go to the show for full context. Um, People easily get triggered by small snippets. For example, like me saying people pleasing is your own fault, take accountability. That sounds harsh, and I could see the comments now and people sharing their experiences. But it's the truth. Like the accountability part to me is huge. I could live and sit in the resentment of everyone that I thought that used me and mistreated me, and I could sit in the realization of relationships that I thought was one thing and come to the realization that it wasn't. It If you're sitting in resentment, that's not healing, right? That's not healing. And what end up happening is you put yourself in this bubble where you're afraid to start new relationships, you're afraid to get out, put yourself out there, you're super protective, and that's not healing. That's hiding, right? So therapy is about healing. It's about being able to sit and have the emotional awareness and being able to have power over your emotions in situations where you didn't at first. Um, it's about realizing and taking accountability that yes, I allowed these things to happen. I've allowed people to mistreat me. I've allowed myself to be under the leadership of narcissistic people, and I was a magnet to narcissists. It's not blaming you because you didn't know better, because you grew up in certain situations, because you became people pleaser from a childhood. But as you get the awareness, and this is where TikTok information and therapy clashes. This is where social media information, chat GBT information, and therapy clashes. Because information without healing is only information. A lot of people are getting the awareness on social media. And I applaud all the therapists out there on social media that's giving information and helping people. But I'm coming to you from the perspective of a patient. I'm not a therapist. I didn't go to school for it. I am a uh, a, a person that has panic disorder, people pleasing tendencies, and all sorts of other stuff from childhood trauma. But here's the thing: I've always had the information. I've always heard all the social media stuff. I've read, I've seen a lot of things. I didn't get my healing until I started therapy. Because just because I had information, the awareness is an inward thing. The realization is an inward thing. And it comes from your experiences. Everybody out there listening to me, your experiences are different. Every person experiences is different. And the awareness and the information and the realization, when those three things come together, it's like a light bulb. And the purpose of therapy versus just getting information on TikTok is to help you with a doctor build the emotional fortitude that the things that you were afraid of, the things that triggered you, no longer triggered you. That I could come on a platform and talk about the abuse and talk about the things that I never shared before without it triggering fear. Or you could be in a situation where someone else is triggered, but their trigger no longer triggers you. Think about that. If you grew up in a, or if you're in a relationship where you're walking on eggshells with somebody because you don't want that person to get upset or whatever because it will trigger your emotional instability, and to come to a place in healing where you could still be in the same environment, still be in the same house, still be in the same working environment, and their trigger means nothing to you, and you're watching them triggered walk around, yell, carry on, and you're laughing, and it has no effect on you. That is healing. Healing is not hiding. Healing is not escaping. Healing is being free from the thing that had you or could trigger your emotional state. Let me tell you something. My nervous system was hijacked since childhood. Through me not only going to therapy, but putting into practice the things I learned in therapy, I have taken control, or I am better at taking control of my nervous system. Now, the things that would I would be afraid of or walk on eggshells or tippy toe around, I laugh at it, right? And I still have moments, don't get me wrong. Um, and I still have things that I need to unpack and uncover. I'm not there, and it's going to happen to me. I'm just getting better at it with practice. That's why they call this a journey. Like this whole notion that people get healed. You don't truly get healed. You just build muscle and you get stronger. um but you I can go 80 years, and then one day something happened and I'm not paying attention. I can get triggered, and then I'll have to probably go back into what I learned. But I'm telling you, you get better at it, you get stronger at it. um, so like I said, if you are hiding, if you are, um, you know, pulling yourself away and afraid to start relationships, and because every relationship I start, I always attract the wrong people. I implore you to go seek help. Find a therapist or a counselor or psychologist, or get just get evaluated. And if you're not comfortable with the person doing it, don't stop. Find another one. It took me a few tries, um, and I'll be honest with you, I was one of those that gave up until my brother reached out to me and recommended someone. So, under his recommendation, it just happened that it was the right one, and it's been an amazing, amazing experience. So, to all my people pleasers out there, former people pleasers, recovering people pleasers, you're putting up boundaries and it's affecting relationships. And the one time you stood up for yourself, or you have an opinion, and um, and the people or the person is using guilt trip tactics on you, or the person is not responding to you, or the person is doing the woe is me, and you're doing everything in your power to protect yourself from falling back into that people pleasing tendency. I would say to you guys, be strong. Be strong. It may hurt, it may get lonely, but I'm telling you, there's relationships out there. There are people out there that are like minded, that are for you, and you don't have to limit yourself. You don't have to devalue yourself just for the sake of a relationship. You've put in too much work. You've come way too far to go back into attracting friends that bring you down and that you have to bring yourself down to their level just for the sake of a friend. Or you have to compromise your healing and your work just for the sake of a relationship. It's not worth it. Because you know something? What you're dealing with now is going to eventually happen. So it's better to just literally end it now and move on in your empowerment and move on in who you are. I am no longer going to be gaslit. I'm no longer going to be triggered. I'm no longer going to be used, and I'm no longer going to be abused in any relationship. I am valuable. I am someone that brings value to a relationship. And anyone that's wise enough to see that will have an amazing friend, will have an amazing partner, will have an amazing relationship with me. But the minute you go back into those old habits of people pleasing, the relationship is not real because you're not being your true self, right? And um, so this is just to encourage because there's a lot of former people pleasers out there that are struggling that I know, like relationship wise. It gets lonely because it's think about it. It's a whole new discovery. It's a whole new discovery because you're for the first time you're walking in your true identity. You're literally now discovering who you really are. Once you stop being that chameleon, once you stop being a people pleaser, you're discovering, wait, I didn't, dang, I went along with this for this relationship, but this is not really something I enjoy. It doesn't really bring me peace or pleasure. I've people pleased. I've done it because it appeased that relationship. But when you're breaking free from that, you start discovering and being okay with what you really liked, who you really are, what you enjoyed, living in um you and living in that truth. So you start discovering yourself. And as you discover yourself, you start walking in it and people around you started noticing it. And the relationships that start falling off because they're like, I don't like this new version of you. I like the old you. I like the old you that agreed with everything I said. I like the old you that stayed quiet when you disagreed. I like the old you that just kind of was cool, calm, and collective and went along with whatever. I don't like this new version. And I would say to you, keep going. Block out the noise, block out the people who don't like this new version of you. But every so often, you'll find people that come alongside you and they're like, I rock with that. Yo, you'll find people that come alongside you and be like, um, that's a person I want. That's a relationship I want. Someone gave me some advice. Um, it's actually my brother, Tim. He gave me some really good advice. And he said, Paul, I saw this on social media and it stuck with me. And when he said it to me, I thought it was really, really good. He said, never take advice from somebody that you cannot give advice to. Yeah, I was like, I really pondered that. I'm like, wait, never take advice from somebody that you cannot give advice to. And this may be outside of the whole people pleasing message. And I don't know why I feel like I should share it. But what I got out of that is if somebody cannot take advice from you or will not take advice from you, there's a couple things going on. One, they don't value you enough that the advice you're giving them is valuable. Two, they lack no respect. Bottom line, they don't respect you because most people don't take advice from people they don't respect, right? Um, so why would I take advice from somebody that don't respect me? Maybe because if they don't respect me, the advice they're giving me is not coming from a good place. Let that sink in for a little bit. If you're taking advice from someone that won't take your advice, be very careful of the advice you're getting. Because if they don't respect you enough to take your advice, the advice they're giving you, is it really in your benefit or is it in theirs? So again, this has been another eye-opening lesson that I'm going through right now as a people pleaser, former people pleaser, and um, the lonely road is the people that fall off. But I guarantee you, you're gonna have people around you. You're gonna have people that come alongside you, and hang in there. It's a freeing road. I rather have two quality friends than a million friends that I have to perform. I'll say this again. I rather have two quality friends than a million people that I have to perform for, or I have to give up my identity for, or I have to give up parts of me for that relationship. Those two friends will carry me through a lifetime, will carry me through trials, tribulations, good times and bad times. Those friends, those other 100 friends or relationships that you have to people please, you are just a tool or something that they need, that they can get when they need something from. So all the former people pleasers that's watching this, that's struggling, go ahead and give me some shout outs in the comment. Give me some of your experiences, some of your advice. If you're a therapist watching my videos and podcasts, um, just know that if there's anything that I'm saying that doesn't line up or you think can be helpful, I am not here trying to tell people or heal people or be like a therapist. So I will appreciate anything. Don't feel any type of way to give me insight or give me advice on what I should say or do in my next episode that could help me personally. I think we could support each other. I really hope you gain something from it. I hope that you guys could continue to comment and join in the conversation, and let's push this message forward. Let's push this message forward so that other people can heal as well. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and share this with someone. I'm really trying to get this podcast to grow. A lot of people do appreciate the messages, the vulnerability, and a lot of people have reached out and told me how much the podcast has helped them. So if you could just share with someone, and just help this platform grow, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. See you next time.